her husband came home and saw her car in the driveway, and she had also apparently drawn herself a bath, and the bathtub was full, but she was not there.
Welcome back, Sarah.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to be... This is the start of a 4-part series.
No big deal. No pressure.
What's the series about?
We're going to talk about the victims of Derrick Todd Lee. Go into depth about just a deep dive overall of who the victims were. I think it's important, like I've said before, true crime, there's so much controversy in doing true crime out of in an empathetic way.
Yeah.
People tend to hate true crime because in the past, at least, I think it's geared more towards quote unquote glorifying the serial killer himself and, focusing on that person, and it gives them kind of a platform. And, I think in more recent years, we've geared towards telling these stories in an more empathetic way. Telling the stories of the victims. That really is that's the heart of it, It's their story. We need to give the power back to the victims and their families and tell their stories in a kind way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll and through the series we'll talk about Derrick Todd Lee, but not.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to keep it to the victims and that as much as we can, because this is always, and I've said it on other episodes, but this has always been this is the crime that. Because I grew up in Baton Rouge during this.
Yeah. I lived in Gonzales at this time, but it was still very close to home.
Yeah. Well, and it was the first time, at least that I can remember, where, it was going on and, everyone was scared.
Yeah.
My
brother, my oldest brother, he was in high school at this time. So he probably would have been around 17, and he had a longtime girlfriend at that time. They've been together all through high school. And I remember her being terrified. She lived in Baton Rouge, and it was just terror all around. She carried pepper spray with her. She didn't really go anywhere at night. She would come to our house and hang out for a little while, and then she would go back home, It was a terrifying time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I'm going through some of these articles, and, I was looking at an article from A&E about, the timeline of the victims, and they said during the period of the late 90s to the early 2000s, there were over 30 women killed by an unknown assailant. That's a lot of women in such a small, decade. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Baton Rouge is a bigger town. It's the biggest town around here, but it's still small compared to other metropolitan areas, So, yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been to be. I was only 12 at the time.
Yeah.
11 or 12, when the victims started being found. So I knew enough that everyone was terrified. It was all over the news, but to be a young woman in that time was, I'm sure it was terrifying.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't know it at the time, but there was at least two
Yeah.
serial
that
killer.
we know of.
I think there's 3. I need to look at that.
Yeah.
I think there was one also on the other side of the river.
Right.
But, yeah, so 2 or 3 that we know of.
Active at the same time.
Yeah. Which, like you said, for Baton Rouge, and this is pre-Katrina, so it was even smaller population.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of deaths.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the pressure was on these cops, to find someone,
Yeah.
because we see that a lot in other like small town areas that they're not necessarily equipped. They don't have a lot of experience with these type of murders, so it's like all the pressure is on them to put a stop to it. You know, so I can only imagine what kind of pressure everybody was under at that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So where do you want to start?
So, I want to start with I looked up a timeline, and the first victim on that timeline was Gina Wilson Green. She was a 40-year-old nurse on September 24th of 2001. Also, I want to make a side note. A lot of this information that I found was in various articles with WAFB and WBRZ. If you just search the victims' names, you can find a lot of this information. So I'm not just making it up like people think. Anyways, so yeah, she's 40 years old. She was a nurse. On September 24, 2001, she was found in her home on Stanford Avenue near LSU, which I don't know where Stanford Avenue is now that I'm thinking of it.
I always thought, I'm pretty sure it's by the lakes.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
And again, I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where it's like, because like if you go between,
they have different. Around LSU, they have different streets named after colleges. I want to say like big colleges. Like there's like Columbia or something.
Yeah, so the streets between the 2 lakes are like Morning Glory and all them are named after flowers. Yeah. I want to say Stanford is like if you go between.
Stanford is kind of by College Drive, isn't it? Because it's the old Promises?
Yeah.
It's right there.
Well, then that's right. That's right where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's on the other side of...
Shout out Promises.
Maybe, RIP. Maybe it's on the other side of Segan. Because, you know how that... if you go to the Southdown parades, you know how there's the road runs right... I think it is on the other side. Because I used to live on Morning Glory for a little while.
Well, when you're going down Perkins, is that Perkins? Yeah. Perkins, the light before you turn to go to the old Promises house, that light was Stanford Avenue, I want to say. Anyway. Yeah. Stanford Avenue.
We'll look that up after this.
Yeah. She was sexually assaulted and strangled in her home.
And she was a college student?
No, she was older.
Okay.
She was in her 40s. But a lot of the other younger victims were either past LSU students who were going to grad school. He was kind of all over the place with the victimology. When they found her, they noticed her phone and her purse were missing, which were later found weeks later on Choctaw in an alley, they said. They said also I don't know if she had recently divorced her ex-husband, but I think it was fairly recent around the time she died. So initially, of course, he was a suspect, but he was later cleared. They initially did not think she was linked to any of these cases. Like, it wasn't that wasn't an original thought.
Yeah.
But after Charlotte Marie Pace was murdered, they were linked. Those two cases were linked via DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Her ex-husband, I believe his name is Mark, described her as being outgoing, vivacious, strong, opinionated, and full of life. Which I think it's such a tragedy.
Yeah.
You know? She also told her mom and her ex-husband that around this time, she was feeling like somebody was watching her. Which is
a lot of the...
Right.
Yeah, a lot of the women...
They had an uneasy feeling. And I think when you're... It's hard to say, but, like, as a woman, sometimes you have an instinct,
mm-hmm.
right? And... At first, you like try to talk yourself down.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, well, maybe I'm just on high alert, you know? So it's hard to trust those kind of instincts sometimes. But as a woman, I can honestly say, like, if you have an instinct like that, trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Do everything. Statistics have shown, like, if something doesn't feel right, do something different. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure she had an alarm on her house. Yeah, her husband said she was very, like, obsessed with turning on the alarm. I imagine, like, I know for me, living alone, I lived alone at one time, and it's very scary at times, especially nowadays. Like, it's not even safe, I don't think, to live as a woman alone in Baton Rouge. But back then, I'm sure with, like, her ex-husband not in the house anymore, like,
yeah,
she was paranoid to a certain extent, like, especially with all the murders around that time, you know?
You're right.
So, trust your instincts, ladies. But yeah, and the husband also said, like, during this time, he obviously was trying to think of who could have done this,
mm-hmm.
you know? And he said, like, around the same time, they had a run-in with, like, a painter that was working around the house. And the painter threatened both of them.
Yeah.
So at first, that's, like, where his first thoughts were, like, maybe he did it, whatever.
Right, naturally.
Yeah. They said although she didn't have children, like, she loved her niece. She loved being around kids. She loved to help people and was obsessed with her BMW. But yeah, I mean, he must have... I mean, we've heard rumors. I don't know how much of that is true, of, like, how he got these women to, like, let their guard down just enough to let him in the house.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that he played, like, noises of a crying baby. Don't know if that's true or if that's rumor. But I want to say that he definitely, like, probably knocked on the door and, like, asked the old, can I use your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Type deal. But then I wonder, I don't know if that would have even worked at that point, you know?
Well, but also, it seems like with him, like, not that they weren't random, but they weren't, like...
He stalked them.
Right, so... It could have even been that he knew, you know, because he knew their schedule.
Yeah, so he could have even just, like, walked in behind them as they're walking in the house. I didn't think of that, yeah.
Right.
It seems like he took his time encasing these women, watching them,
mm-hmm.
learning their schedules, stalking them, and I think that was part of his sick way of...
Yeah.
You know, because they did say at one point he was a peeping Tom. And he got caught doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they would take peeping Toms more seriously.
Right.
Because I don't think they stay in jail very long at all. But it's very, it's a very invasive crime, even though it's not it's not inherently violent.
Yeah.
But it's a very good sign that their behavior is escalating.
It's a gateway crime, if you will. Yeah.
Because eventually the peeping is not going to be enough to excite them, you know? So, like, odds are it's probably going to escalate.
Yeah.
So I want to say he was arrested a couple times for peeping Toms. He may have been arrested for sexual assault or something of that nature. I don't recall.
I'm not sure.
But, yeah, they need to take those kind of crimes more seriously. Because I think it's a blatant indicator that something is not right.
Yeah.
You know. Ugh. You know, I don't know. It's just, it's tragic that these women were just trying to make a life for themselves, you know, and some sick motherfucker just saw them and wanted to violate them and have absolute power because he was lacking self-esteem, because he was, you know, his IQ was not great, and I think he was made fun of a lot as a kid. So it's like he felt that was his way of getting his power back, is to dominate these women and catch them off guard.
Yeah.
You know? But what a coward. It makes me irrationally angry.
Yeah.
Men's fragile egos. I don't know. I don't really have much else of note about her.
Yeah. Well, let's go to what's the second victim?
Gerilyn Dodto. By the way, all these women were like super beautiful. Just seemed like kind of salt of the earth people. Gerilyn Dodto was 21 years old at the time of her death. She was born in Pineville, Louisiana. She was found in her home, lying in a pool of blood by her husband. She was badly beaten and stabbed, and her throat was even slashed. Originally, of course, the husband also was a suspect, but was later cleared. Gerilyn's aunt told the police her niece's murder was very similar into Charlotte Murray Pace. I'm sorry. In that they both were beaten, stabbed, and their throats were slashed. So she probably was like watching all of this and in the news and stuff. And again, some of these victims, although they were earlier victims, they weren't necessarily linked at first.
Right.
A lot of them were later linked via DNA. So she did fight, though. She put up a fight. They found DNA under her fingernails, so hopefully she scratched the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Her family nicknamed her Sissy, and they said she wouldn't hurt anybody. She was the type of person that wouldn't hurt anybody. And she was described as vibrant, athletic, easygoing, and never gave her parents any issues. Her mom told, a reporter at WAFB, I believe. When DNA finally linked her, I think he was one of the only, her murder was one of the only ones they could, I don't know how many counts of murder he was convicted of. But she was like, her
I
case.
think 7.
I don't know. Her case was linked later.
Yeah.
Is what I guess I'm trying to say.
Oh, you mean how many they convicted him on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know Gerilyn was one of the ones.
Yeah.
One of the counts he was charged with.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like her parents were just like sweet people. Her mom told the police, you know, or told reporters that she hoped that Lee finds God. This is a direct quote, finds God, that when he finds him, God touches his heart enough that he confesses and let everyone have some sort of peace that we have now.
Yeah.
What kind of strength?
I don't know if I would be able to say all that.
No.
Yeah.
That would not be my first thought. But it sounds like she was very loved and, you know, she did go to LSU, and I think she was, like, planning to attend graduate school that fall.
Yeah.
But she never got a chance to do any of that, you know. 21 years old is super young. So she must have just, like, graduated college. She was... She was killed on January 14th, 2002. So she may have just graduated in December, you know.
Yeah.
Just, it's such a tragedy that these women had so much left. They had their whole lives ahead of them, you know. And just because, again, some sick bastard wants to dominate these women and feel because that's ultimately what this is about, you know. I believe he was a sexual sadist and a peeping Tom, and he got a sense of excitement and power doing that. And then, you know, eventually that doesn't become, that's not enough. So then the thrill escalates to actually, you know, breaking in their house, violating them, and ultimately killing them.
Right.
All because you're a coward. Ultimately, you know.
Back from a little break. So let's go to the third victim. We'll start there.
Okay. The third victim was Charlotte Murray Pace. Her friends called her Murray. And her family. They said exactly a week after she earned her MBA at LSU, she was murdered. She was stabbed in her Charlotte Avenue apartment. I think that's kind of by our house, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, but I think they said she worked at LSU.
Yeah.
Like, probably did along the lines of what Caroline did. Like, she was like a assistant of some kind over there, like an office assistant.
Yeah.
So she went home from, I guess, I'm assuming work, and went home for lunch around noon. And I think it was her mom, after talking to police, they said she probably didn't lock the door behind her because she was just going home for lunch.
Get lunch real quick,
Yeah, and then probably heading back to the office. She was stabbed in her apartment. I think her throat was also cut. This was on Friday, May 31st, 2002. They said she was killed sometime between noon and 2 p.m. because her roommate came home around 2:15, and that's when they found her body.
And how old was she?
23.
23. Okay.
Yeah, super young.
Yeah.
The authorities said there was definitely signs of a struggle. Like, she she fought the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And DNA, I believe, was found under her fingernails. Like, the apartment, they said, was definitely showing signs of a struggle. So they knew that, like, she fought for her life, poor thing.
Yeah.
DNA linked her case to Gina Wilson Green, the first victim. And apparently, the crimes were similar between the two also. And at one point, she had lived 3 doors down from Gina Wilson Green.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah.
But they said they don't think they knew each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, they focus a lot between the similarities between her crime, her murder, and Gina.
And how far apart were they, like, time-wise?
I think a couple of months. Let's see. So Gina was killed in late September 2001, and then Charlotte was killed.
This was in May, huh?
May of 2002. So
6
few months, yeah. Her mom talked to authorities and said, like, Murray had called her when Gina died and was kind of, like, freaking out about it. They didn't know each other.
Right, but it was right there.
I'm sure it, like, spooked her how close to home that was. And apparently her and Gina Green also, they drove BMWs. And like I said, they lived down the street from each other. When they were trying to gather evidence in order to seek an indictment on Derrick Todd Lee, they said they focused a lot on Murray's case because it had the most evidence that they thought would result, in
death penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of that evidence included surveillance video of Murray at a car wash in East Baton Rouge that day. And then eyewitnesses placing Lee in her neighborhood around a couple of hours before the murder.
Yeah.
Also, there was a bloody shoe print in her apartment that matched the same size and style that Derrick Todd Lee was said to have worn.
Yeah.
And of course the DNA linking him to the case.
Yeah. And this is in the middle of the day on a Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Middle of the afternoon. So I think at this point he was just starting to escalate.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It seems like, because the first two, he was more stalking and kind of like planning it out, I guess. This one seemed more of, kind of...
Maybe he stalked her, but maybe he saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
When he's driving around to see this girl probably by herself, if he was driving around the neighborhood. So who knows if he was following her or it was just something on instinct,
Right.
But yeah, her mom said, I doubt she probably locked the door behind her because she was just going home for lunch and then going back to work.
That's crazy.
Lock your doors.
Yeah. Always.
Always. Lock your fucking doors. But it's kind of haunting, that she put up so much of a fight. Like, I can only imagine the terror, And she, from the way that people talk about her, she seems like this sort of badass person who just, like, didn't really take shit from anybody. Like, her mom did a lot of advocacy work after the fact. Like, her mom was she worked at some other college. I want to say it was like in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And her and her dad, the mom and dad, like, put together a scholarship fund in her memory. Like, she fought for her daughter's memory to stay in people's minds rather than him and the way she died.
Yeah.
You know? I think they even offered a reward at some point, like before he was caught.
Yeah.
And she talks so fondly of her. Like, it sounds like she was just as, like, tenacious and determined to keep her daughter's memory fresh in people's minds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I admire that tenacity. And what is Georgia on My Favorite? Chutzpah is what she calls it. I think that's a Hebrew word, but yeah. The chutzpah, the guts. You know, because I can't say that I would be willing to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would like to think I would, but, you know, for someone to turn her pain into something more positive is kind of, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and also, this is an important part because this is what officially makes him a serial killer.
Yeah.
And it's also, that's the time when Baton Rouge starts to
turn on its head. Yeah.
And gets really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to see, like, the brazenness, you know? And I think he just counted on those tiny little things, circumstances, to where he can make his entrance, you know?
Right.
And it's scary to think that somebody was watching every little thing you're doing and, like, just waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, lying in wait, which is, that's really sick.
Yeah.
You know?
And she was in a house?
They said she lived in a townhome.
Okay.
On Charlotte.
Yeah.
Which I recall seeing that street somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure where it is. But yeah, like, they talk about her a lot in, like, the podcasts and documentaries. Just that she was a badass human being, you know.
Seems like you hear her name and the next victim.
Pam Kenmore.
Pam Kenmore.
Now, the picture they show in the news of Pam Kenmore is one of the ones that I remember.
Yeah.
Like, she just looked, I mean, not that any of them looked bad. Like,
right.
She had a beautiful, like, that typical mom haircut with, like, the flippy out, the early 2000s mom. You know, she looked like your typical early 2000s mom. You know, and her picture was everywhere.
I think it's crazy too, because, like, it feels like this was so long ago,
right?
And then also it was almost 25 years ago.
Yeah,
which is crazy because I was 14 or 15.
Yeah, and I was like 12.
Yeah,
13 at this point. So, but it's crazy how we still remember how it made us feel.
Well, and also, I think at this point is where they think, because like I said, this is the one that officially makes him a serial killer. Mm-hmm. It's also, I want to say it's either this one or the next one about that time where they think he's in a white truck.
Yeah, because after Murray, there was a woman who was beaten, sexually assaulted in Breaux Bridge. Mm-hmm. And I want to say after her attack is when she kind of helped developed this
Yeah.
sketch, and they were thinking it was a older white guy,
it was an older white man
in a white pickup truck.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of different sketches that I saw, and it looks like just your average, like,
Yeah.
30s, 40s white guy.
They even had people riding around in white pickup trucks with I am not the serial killer written on the. They did, yeah.
Really?
I saw that in some articles and stuff. Well, and it's so at this time I was still living in Baton Rouge, and I was living in Terra,
right?
And I remember, they thought it was a white guy in a white truck, and my friend's mom, she lived in the same neighborhood, but like on the other side of Terra.
Yeah.
And she was at home during the day. She was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So she was at home during the day, and like some white guy in a white pickup truck,
pulled in the driveway.
Not pulled. I think he parked out in the front.
God.
Of the, because like how they're like in the street, and then came to the door knocking, and she like freaked out. Yeah, she was immediately called, her husband and, all that, which, but that's kind of to give you an idea of where everybody was at that time. And that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Because I'm old enough to know what's going on, but I'm also like, I'm still a kid, but I remember the level of kind of panic and fear that people had at that time.
And I also want to say, like, this is another My Favorite Murder thing that I get from Karen in Georgia, but they always talk about, like, fuck being polite, make a scene.
Yeah.
You can be embarrassed and apologized if
later.
you're wrong,
right.
But make a scene. Like,
yeah.
If something doesn't feel right, you don't have to be polite to that person. We're taught as women to be, like, obedient and polite to men or people who are strangers, and we don't want to offend them. Fuck that. If something doesn't feel right in your gut, like, make a scene. You don't have to be polite. You can tell them to fuck off and apologize if you're wrong.
Yeah, no, and which is what she did. I don't think she freaked out on him because she didn't open the door.
Right.
She immediately called her husband and I think the cops. But, yeah. And I think it ended up being just a guy, door to door. So, but, better to be wrong than
something bad to happen.
Right.
And I think that's what these predatory men count on, is just that slight, that that's not blaming the victim. Like, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Like, but when you keep safety in the back of your mind, that I think a lot more women do nowadays, this was an earlier time where, again, Baton Rouge is still a small town. Like, some people probably didn't really lock their doors or really invest in alarm systems at that time, Yeah,
we didn't have an alarm. We locked all our doors. We didn't have an alarm system.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the world was less on alert than they are nowadays. So, and again, that's not anything against the victims. It's not their fault. Like, they didn't deserve this. But I think these predatory men that count on those little circumstances, to where they have an opportunity, they're watching, and it's really crazy. So it's like, you don't have to be on guard at all times, but, like, trust your instincts. If my gut is right 99.9% of the time, like, so just trust your instincts. If something feels off.
And where are they, sorry to cut you off, where are they finding, are the victims being found in the homes?
Up until the following victim.
That's what I was,
So, and apparently, I think with some of the other crimes, they're found elsewhere. But we can start talking about Pam.
Yeah.
Because I think that ties in perfectly. So Pam Kenmore is 44 years old. She was a mom. They said she was a decorator, and she also like dealt with antiques and stuff. And she owned a little business called, where is it? Comforts and Joys in Denham. So probably in that little antique district at some point.
Downtown, yeah.
Yeah. So this time she was not murdered. She may have been. No, she wasn't murdered at home. She wasn't found at home.
Yeah.
Her husband came home and saw her car in the driveway, and she had also apparently drawn herself a bath, and the bathtub was full, but she was not there. So he reported her missing on July 12th, that Friday. So there was a full search conducted, ground searches, helicopters, everything. And then it says their home was in Briarwood Estates. I want to say that's in Central. It sounds like Central to me, but I could be wrong.
That sounds like a lot of neighborhoods around here.
Yeah. But ultimately, Department of Transportation and Development, DOTD, workers found her underneath the Whiskey Bay Bridge on I-10, I think towards close to Lafayette.
Yeah.
And her throat was cut. They said the home, there was no signs of forced entry. Her keys were still in the door.
He may have already been in there, or
or if she went in and he followed behind her.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember her picture was one of the main ones that I remember seeing like on the news. She seemed just like, my mom was probably in her 40s at that time too, so she was around the same age as my mom.
Yeah.
You know, just your typical mom. I don't know.
Yeah, all of these victims were right around the age of my mom. Yeah. Well, not all of them, because some of them were young.
Some of them were
but
really
her young. And because my mom was about 40, 45, mid 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what these women went through and like what their families went through.
Well, and I was thinking about this too when you said when they get to her house, the keys are still in the door. But I don't think he came. That's what makes me think he may have already been in there. Because she had to go inside to run the bath. So he didn't just rush her at the door.
Right.
Or, to me it makes more sense either he was already in there or he came in while she's running the bath or whatever,
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that, but...
yeah, we can only speculate.
Yeah, because obviously she felt comfortable when she got home for some period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's even crazier.
Yeah. Or maybe he just saw her coming home, saw she left the keys in the door and hung out in the yard or something. Because I'm sure most of these homes, they were in affluent neighborhoods, so they were probably relatively big houses.
Yeah.
So he may have seen her come in, leave her keys in the door, and waited for his moment to act.
Well, and it's also, this is outside of Baton Rouge. She probably felt safer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know, like I said, when we were kids growing up in Baton Rouge, our doors were always locked. But that's just because that's what Baton Rouge at the time was.
Yeah.
we would always have like bikes stolen and stuff like that. So it was dangerous. It wasn't dangerous, but it was dangerous enough to lock the doors.
To be conscious of that.
But I remember when we moved out here, the doors were always unlocked out here.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah.
Like, we would come in and out all damn day.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's to say,
Yeah.
And if she was living in Central, they kind of portray it as like the safer.
Yeah. Just like in Dallas.
Outskirts of Baton Rouge, So, yeah, you're right. She may have just felt safe and went inside, accidentally left the door unlocked with her keys in it.
Yeah.
And didn't think twice about it.
And you said she had kids?
She had kids. I don't know how old they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a mom.
Yeah, and they also probably immediately knew that this was probably the same guy.
I don't know.
When you said immediately, she fit all the criteria. Woman alone at home.
And then that girl that was in Brobridge, so I think they're starting to see that it's not just
he's
isolated.
willing to travel.
Yeah, to Baton Rouge city limits, So maybe they are starting to put pieces together. And
it's also because he was from around St. Francisville, right?
Yeah, he was born in
He was from
St.
around
Francisville.
right outside of Angola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what he must have did some kind of odd job, like construction or something.
I know he worked in plants, different plants. He had...
But he had a lengthy criminal record, so it's like, I don't know if he could keep a job that long, He would go to jail for burglary, go to jail for peeping Tom.
But also in the plant, that goes a little more unnoticed.
Really?
Well,
nowadays they might be more strict with...
Well, it's not even that. You can work a plant job and be on one job for 6 months, working a turnaround or whatever, so there's ways to kind of...
But now, mostly, I don't know if you can get in certain plants with a criminal record, though. Because you have to get a TWIC, and it's harder.
That's after 9/11, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably around that time that they're...
Yeah. But I saw something because he was... Because his defense team at trial, their whole thing was, his IQ is below...
Yeah, I want to say they said it was a 75.
Well, so under 70 is when you're considered to have like some kind of mental disability.
Yeah.
But they said for him, he hovered around like 60s and 70 when he was younger. Mm-hmm. But then when he got older, because he was also, I think he was like a truck driver or a diesel mechanic or something like that. And you had to go to school for that.
Yeah.
And he went to school and got like A's and B's. And then he was also like, he raised some kids. He was in a couple relationships.
Right.
That was all kind of their proof of like, hey, that he's not, he's capable of being, because that's the whole thing. You can't, in Louisiana, you can't convict somebody who has a mental disability or something like that. You can't, I think you can give them life, but I don't think you can give them the death penalty.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was their whole defense of trying to get him.
But just the way he conducted himself, you can tell he was smart.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he didn't have those disabilities and, didn't have limitations as far as, his mental, I don't know that to be a fact. But I also know I've worked with several diesel mechanics, and they're not necessarily, they can be genius at putting together trucks.
Yeah.
Geniuses. But sometimes they don't know how to use a computer well. They can't read well. Mm-hmm. They don't write well. But they can put a truck back together.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for me to believe someone who could get away with at least 7.
Yeah.
wouldn't have some kind of decent IQ. You know what I mean?
He's got enough street smarts to conduct himself.
Yeah.
You know, in a cunning kind of way.
Yeah.
And he had to be at least somewhat seemingly charming to have women in his life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. To have relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think he had any kids of his own, and I could be completely wrong about that. I don't think he did.
Yeah.
But I think he was in some relationships where he was raising
women,
kids.
Yeah. Which is even more terrifying, you know?
Yeah. And I didn't, because I spent most of the time looking at the victim's stuff. Because I always go back to that with serial killers. Like, what, not a reason, but like, what were the factors to, you know, in his early childhood or whatever that made
Well, I want to say that I've read that he was bullied.
Yeah.
He did have some
learning disabilities
that made it hard for him in school. That doesn't excuse what he did, you know. But I think he had a low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I think that he didn't have the greatest way with words.
Mm-hmm.
And so his only option was to, I don't mean his only option, the way he made it seem, the way he could get his power back was by dominating people, you know. So I think that he felt like he didn't have enough power and confidence in himself, and the way he was able to get that sort of satisfaction was to dominate these women and violate them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And I know we kind of skimmed over the victim, still a victim, but the one that survived.
Yeah. I didn't see her name in the media.
Yeah.
Maybe she wanted to remain anonymous for a certain period of time.
I found her name.
Oh. Well, yeah, after the fact. I was reading articles more along that timeline, and they didn't mention her name.
Right. No, but I think it was another, like, kind of middle of the day, or maybe even, like, early afternoon.
Yeah.
I think, and I could be wrong, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I think it was, like, a trailer outside, you know, where they were at, and kind of more of, like, a rural area. Because I think she like ended up getting away and running
through the woods and stuff. Damn.
Or to the neighbor or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I know even to this day, Burr Bridge is not a big place.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It certainly has more commercial places nowadays, but I don't even know how big it was back in the early 2000s. You know, I can't imagine it was very big.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people knew each other, you know, because that's right outside of Jennings.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.